What's going on? Oh man, thanks for tuning in, man. Gonna talk about Fury and Dillian Whyte today. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't, man. Smack the notification bell, leave a comment. So, firstly, man, let's get off the easy work. So, Fury is going back to training camp. His daughter's recovered, man. Awesome news. You know, he says God is good, man. Thanks to all the staff, man. Which is he's right on. You know, he's exactly on the money there. You know, it was all about his daughter. The fight didn't exist at that point. You know, but his daughter's recovered now, so the fight's back on. So that's great news, man. You know, I really want to see this chapter close of Wilder and Fury. It's been such a long chapter, you know, and it's just dragged on so long, man. I just want to see the end of it, you know. I just want to see who wins that third fight. At the moment, I got a one apiece. I know a lot of people disagree with me and say Fury won 2, man, or some people say it was a draw. But to me, it was one apiece, and you know, the saying is, man, you want to beat the champion, you knock him out, you know what I mean? So, and that's what Fury done in the second fight. So that's why I go the first fight to Wilder, you know, he didn't knock him out, and he got knocked out twice, so, you know, you can't really count that as a win. So we'll see what happens on the third fight, man. We'll see what happens in the third fight. I just want the chapter to be closed, and once it's done, man, I'll be happy. So Fury's back at training camp, man. You know, 7.5 week training camp. Usually it's 8 weeks, so he's lost out 2 weeks, but he says that's not a really big deal, you know. We'll see what happens. And I'm looking forward to that fight, man. I'm looking forward to that fight. I give that fight a 50-50 fight, you know. It could go either way. That's that. Let's talk Dillian Whyte. Was meant to debut in the US. You know, flew over the pond and said, hey man, I want to debut in the US, man. I want to fight on the Canelo card. I want to fight Ariola. Those were his words. Canelo had pushed the fight. It was meant to be in September, man. You know, that didn't happen. Still in negotiations with Plant. You know, so it's looking to be in November now. So just because things have changed for Canelo, Eddie Hearn has decided for Dillian Whyte to go back over the pond, you know, back to the UK. Which, you know, I don't agree with that decision, you know. Dillian Whyte wants to make a debut, and Hearn saying, listen, you're going to go back to the UK so that I can set you up with a pay-per-view fight, you know. He's not a big star in the US, Whyte. But that being said, you know, if you fought a guy like Ruiz, that could easily be a pay-per-view fight. I don't think Ariola Whyte will be a pay-per-view fight. You know, Ruiz is more of a star in the US than Whyte is. You know, after all, he was the champion. You know, Dillian Whyte hasn't been a champion yet. You know, you can say, oh, well, he's a regular champion. I'm talking about, you know, #1 champion. You know, not those other belts. I'm talking about the real title. You know what I mean? The champion. So he is going back to the UK, looking to fight on October the 30th. Wants Ariola to fly over the pond to fight him, you know. That's another thing I don't understand, you know. He's said, you know, Ariola's a big name in the US. If he's a big name in the US, man, fight him in the US, you know. He's got a debut in the US sometime. He's 33 now, Whyte, I believe. And these UK fighters, man, you know, him, AJ, not debuting in the US, man. I believe AJ needs to make things right and fight in the US next, you know. He needs to fight in the US. That's the mecca of boxing, man. That's where all the great fights happened, in the US. MGM, Madison Square Garden, you know. Vegas, you know what I mean? All these, Barclays Center, all these places, you know, where the big fights have happened, man. And these UK fighters can't hide in their country forever, you know. I mean, sure, you could blame what's happening in the world, man, but, you know, they're already in the US. Why fly back? You know, why fly back? Why go back and say, listen, I want to go and to fight in the UK now? I don't understand it. I believe he was in the US, you know, I believe he was in the US from memory. I may be wrong. But I know that he didn't want to debut in the US, so why not allow him to fight in the US? He's the fighter. Usually the fighter always gets the last say, you know. The manager should respect the fighter's decision. Especially a guy like Whyte, you know, he's been number one for a while. And he's yet to have a title shot, you know. If he wants to debut in the US, he should be allowed to. You see, I believe that Dillian Whyte may need to part ways with Eddie Hearn. I believe that Eddie Hearn is actually slowing him down from allowing him to do what he wants to do, you know. I believe if Hearn wasn't managing him, he may have got a title shot by now, you know. That's just what I think anyway. Eddie Hearn is more focused on setting up an AJ Fury fight, undisputed. I don't see him saying, yo, Whyte, man, let me chuck you in and give you a title shot, man. He may be holding him back to allow that undisputed fight to happen. You know what I mean? I mean, how long has he been number one, man? And all of a sudden, Fury's number one for a couple of, you know, not even like maybe 1 year, man, and he gets an undisputed fight. How does that happen, man? You know? There were in negotiations anyway. You know, Hearn was bending over backwards for him and AJ to get into a mega fight. But what about Whyte? You know, he's completely left him out, hasn't given him one title shot yet. You know, he manages AJ, man. He could have easily set AJ up to fight Whyte for voluntary defense. And it ain't right, man. So, I mean, I don't know what Whyte's thinking, man, wanting to fight Ariola in the UK, you know. I mean, that's not a fight that I want to watch anyway. Not in the UK, man. In the US, I'd want to watch it, not in the UK. You know, you say you respect the fighter, you say he's a big name in the US, and then you ask him to fight in your own backyard, man. That doesn't make sense. But anyway, that's how I see it. I think that Whyte should fight someone like Ruiz. You know, that's a pay-per-view fight in the US. That's a big fight in the US. Him and Ruiz. Him and Martin could be a pay-per-view fight in the US, you know. Martin was once the champion there. Even Michael Hunter will be a good fight for him. You know, I know he hasn't been a champion, but just as a maybe put him on the undercard on the Canelo fight in November, you know. Hunter against Whyte. You know, that's another good fight. But apparently, man, Hearns, you know, he's got plans for October. He's obviously working on the card, saying, you know what, man, I know the perfect card to be the main event. Yo, Whyte, man, come back over here, man, you know. Forget about your debut, man. Come back to the UK and sell me out some tickets. You know, that's basically it, and it's a business move. No interest in what the fighter wants, man. It's strictly business. And I believe that Whyte should part ways with Hearn, man. I see him fighting. I see Ariola fighting over there to fight him. You know, Ariola's a guy that doesn't turn down any fights. It's a massive fight for anyone to get into the number one position, you know, to fight Whyte. And it'll be silly for anyone to turn down their payday and to turn down their opportunity. And so I see the Ariola fight happening. So obviously he's playing the safe card again, you know, but this time in his own backyard. But it's disappointing, you know. It is really disappointing that he's not debuting in the US. You know, there's plenty of fighters that have called him out, man. Charles Martin continuously called him out, you know. Andy Ruiz has said, I'm willing to fight. Luis Ortiz has said, I'm willing to fight. You know, all these people. Michael Hunter's been calling them to fight. All these people from the US or in the US. I mean, Ortiz isn't from the US, but, you know what I'm saying? The US fighters, you know, they were brought up in the US. I mean, their career was anyway, and they're fighting in the US. And, you know, they're stars in the US, you know. Hunter's an up-and-coming prospect, you know, put on a hell of a fight against Povetkin. You know, he's from the US. And he needs to debut, man. He needs to debut. I mean, Dubai's debuting. Good on him, you know. Obviously, Fury's fighting Wilder for the third time in the US. But AJ and Whyte, man, they need to come over, man, and debut at least. I know AJ has already debuted, but I'm just saying he needs to make things right. Dillian Whyte needs to debut, man. You can't just stay in the UK forever, you know. What happens if we loses? You ain't never going to have a debut in the US, is that right? You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know what's going to happen, man, with him getting a shot with the WBC. I guess, as Solomon says, man, everyone's got to get vaccinated in the WBC, and we'll see what happens after the trilogy fight, man. Another business move. Obviously, you know, if Wilder wins, then I guarantee that they'll fight up Wilder versus Whyte. I think that the Wilder AJ fight is harder to make for some reason. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely a business move, and we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. I'm disappointed. You know, I wanted Whyte to debut in the US, but life goes on, man. Boxing goes on. You know, this week we got a big fight ahead of us with Pacquiao and Ugas, so I'm looking forward to that, man. Besides that, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your time, man. Please subscribe to the channel. Much peace and love, man. Smack the notification bell, man. I'm out.